He painted over 900 canvases in the last 10 years of his life. He is generally believed to have sold only one major painting during his lifetime. One canvas, one buyer. A work called The Red Vineyard sold for 400 francs months before he died. Everything else, the sunflowers, the starry night, the wheat fields, the self-portraits sat in piles, in attics, in the rooms of people who didn't know what to do with them. He wrote to his brother Theo almost every day. Letters about color and light and loneliness and what he was trying to make. Letters that read, underneath everything, like a man asking a single question. Do you see me? For most of his life, there was only one person who consistently answered that question. His brother, Theo. Vincent van Gogh is one of the most recognized painters in human history, but he lived and died as someone nobody could recognize. And the question that haunts his story is not about talent or madness or the ear. It is about the need, the desperate, consuming, very human need to be seen by another person. We tend to tell the story of Van Gogh as a tragedy of genius misunderstood. We frame it as art history, a story about taste and markets and critics who got it wrong, but that framing keeps him at a comfortable distance. It lets us say he was extraordinary, and extraordinary people suffer differently than we do. What if Van Gogh's story is not about genius at all? What if it is about something you have felt perhaps this week, perhaps today, the particular ache of offering something real and watching it land in silence? The ache of trying to connect and finding the door closed. The ache of being in a room full of people and feeling, somehow, completely alone. Vincent spent his entire life trying to solve that feeling. Through love, through faith, through art, through friendship. He never solved it. But in trying, he left behind something the world had never seen. This is the story of a man who needed to be seen, and what that need cost him, and what it made. There was a grave in the churchyard of Zundert before Vincent ever arrived. A boy named Vincent Willem van Gogh, stillborn, buried exactly 1 year before his brother was born and given the same name, the same birth date on the church register. It is difficult to grow up in a village, small enough that you pass your own name on a gravestone. It is difficult to grow up as the replacement for someone who was lost. Whether Vincent consciously carried the weight of that other boy, we cannot know, but he grew up in a home shaped by grief. A father who was a pastor, measured, reserved, duty-bound. A mother who had loved and lost before he arrived. He was, by many accounts, a difficult child, willful, intense, prone to outbursts that baffled his quieter siblings. He did not fit easily into the life his family lived. And a child raised in that environment, one who feels too much, expresses too much, disrupts too much, might easily absorb a quiet, painful lesson. That there is something wrong with how much he feels. He left home at 16 to work as an art dealer for his uncle's company. For a time, it worked. He had a real eye for quality. He moved to London, then Paris. He wanted to connect. He always wanted to connect. In London, he fell in love with his landlady's daughter, Eugenia. He told her how he felt. She was already engaged to someone else. He was devastated, not just romantically, but in a way that seemed to confirm something deeper. That his feeling, however sincere, was too much, unwanted. He became withdrawn. His work suffered. He was dismissed. Then he found religion. He went to the Born Age, a coal mining region in Belgium, and lived among the miners. He gave away his food. He slept on the floor. He tended the sick. The church authorities found his behavior excessive, too undignified. They did not renew his appointment. He had tried love. He had tried commerce. He had tried God. Every time he gave everything, it was handed back. He found painting. Between 1,880 and 1,885, he taught himself from anatomy books and farmers willing to sit still. He moved from town to town, following the cheapest rooms in the most honest light. He failed, constantly. He kept going, not with confidence, but with the stubbornness of someone who has run out of other options. In 1885, he completed The Potato Eaters, 5 peasants under a lamp. Dark, heavy, almost ugly. He considered it his first real work, A dealer told him it would never sell. He was 27 when he began to paint seriously. Late, by most measures. But from the beginning, something was clear. He was not painting for decoration or markets or posterity. He was painting to make contact. Every canvas was, in some sense, a letter. Here is what I see. Here is what I feel. Can you see it too? But underneath the work ran a fear he returned to again and again. That he would produce, and the world would remain indifferent. He wrote to Theo, "I am a man of passions, capable of and subject to doing more or less foolish things which I happen to regret more or less afterwards." He knew his intensity pushed people away. He could feel it happening, even as it happened. His relationships with women ended in rejection. His relationships with fellow artists curdled into conflict. His father died before any reconciliation was possible. The fear was not simply of failure. It was of permanent invisibility, of spending a life feeling everything and having no one ever feel it back. In 1886, he went to Paris. He was 33. Theo was already there, working as an art dealer, living in an apartment that now had to contain two very different people. Paris, in the 1880s, was a city mid-explosion. The Impressionists had already broken something open. Color was being used as emotion. Light was becoming a subject in itself. Vincent arrived from the Netherlands, where he had been painting in dark, heavy tones, peasants, earth, labor, the potato eaters, brown and black, and the texture of hard lives. Paris changed him. He met Toulouse-Lautrec. He encountered Pissarro, Seurat, Gauguin. He saw Japanese woodblock prints and felt something unlock. The palette shifted. Yellow came in blazing, insistent. Blue deepened. Brushwork became faster, more urgent, as if the paint itself was trying to keep up with what he was experiencing. He produced over 200 works in 2 years. He was learning, finally, that his intensity was not a defect. It was a style. But Paris also showed him something harder. He watched the Impressionists navigate galleries, buyers, critics, dinner parties. He watched them succeed, some of them by understanding the game. Vincent could not play the game. He was too direct, too needy, too convinced that the work should speak and the world should respond. He expected connection and was devastated when it didn't come. He and Theo fought. The apartment grew claustrophobic. Vincent drank too much. He argued with artists he admired and alienated artists who might have been friends. In February 1888, he left Paris for Arles, a small town in the south of France, where the light was extraordinary and the pace was slower. He wanted to start a community, an artist colony, a place where painters could live and work and see each other's work and be seen. He wrote to Gauguin, to Bernard, to anyone who might come. He dreamed of a yellow house filled with people who understood. Only Gauguin came, and Gauguin came for the wrong reasons. The 9 weeks Vincent and Gauguin spent together in the Yellow House have been analyzed more than almost any other period in art history. What they reveal is not primarily about artistic rivalry. It is about what happens when a person who desperately needs connection encounters someone who does not want to provide it. Gauguin was brilliant and fundamentally detached. He observed Vincent's need with something between pity and contempt. He planned to leave almost from the moment he arrived. Vincent felt it. He always felt it. Think about what that must have been like. To spend years believing that if you could just find the right place, the right people, you would finally stop feeling invisible. To build something with your hands, to paint the walls yellow, to write the letters, and then to watch the one person who came decide, quietly, that it wasn't worth staying for. On the night of the 23rd of December 1888, Gauguin announced he was leaving. Verify. The sequence of events that night is historically contested. The ear incident itself is documented, but the exact trigger and order of events remain disputed among historians. What happened next has been disputed for more than a century. Vincent cut off part of his own ear. What the act meant remains genuinely unclear. But here is what is not unclear. It wasn't really about the ear. It was about abandonment. One gets the sense, reading the letters surrounding those weeks, that the ear, was the external expression of something that had already broken internally. The moment when the gap between how much he needed to be seen and how little the world offered finally became unbearable. He committed himself to the St. Paul de Massol Asylum in Saint-Rémy in May 1889. He kept painting. This is what people often say about Van Gogh and the asylum, as if the painting proves the madness was surmountable, or manageable, or even generative. But read the letters. They describe a man in genuine suffering. Episodes that left him unable to work for weeks. Fear of his own mind. The particular exhaustion of not knowing when the next collapse would come. The Starry Night was painted from the window of his room at Saint-Rémy. He called it a failure. He wrote to Theo that he worried he was using his illness as subject matter, which felt dishonest. He was not interested in being the mad painter. He was interested in being seen clearly, not romanticized. In May 1890, he moved to Auvers-sur-Oise, under the care of Dr. Paul Gachet. He worked at a pace that suggests urgency. 70 paintings in 70 days. Verify. The exact count is approximate. Roughly one painting per day is the documented characterization. On the 27th of July 1890, he walked into a wheat field and shot himself. He survived for 2 days. Theo was with him at the end. Vincent's last words to his brother were, "The sadness will last forever." Verify. This quote is widely attributed, but the exact wording appears in various translations confirmed from primary source. He was 37. 6 months later, Theo was dead too. Verify. Theo died the 25th of January 1891, approximately 6 months after Vincent. He had spent his adult life supporting Vincent financially, emotionally, in letters. The letters form one of the great correspondences in history. Over 600 survive. They are, in many ways, Vincent's real masterpiece. A man's interior life, laid bare. Theo's wife, Jo Van Gogh Bonger, spent the rest of her life making sure the world saw. She organized exhibitions. She published the letters. She held onto the canvases. She made sure Vincent was seen. 50 years after his death, he was among the most recognized painters in the world. There is a particular kind of grief that comes with that. Not just that he never knew, but that the thing he was making was already extraordinary, and he knew it. He wrote about it with a clarity that is almost painful to read. He was not delusional about the quality of his work. He was desperate about its reception. There is a difference. He did not need the world to praise him. He needed the world to receive him. Recognition alone would not have cured his suffering. His struggles ran deeper than that. Whatever was happening inside him was not something that fame could have fixed, but being unseen made the burden heavier. What we might call his hunger for recognition was not weakness. It looks, from this distance, like one of the most human things about him. We are social animals. We need to be witnessed. When that doesn't happen, not once, but year after year, something in the self begins to fracture. Not because we are too sensitive, because we are human. The question his story leaves behind is not, why couldn't Vincent find peace? The question is, who in your life is quietly handing you something real, and have you actually stopped to receive it? Vincent van Gogh sent hundreds of letters asking to be seen. Most of them were answered by his brother, by one person who kept showing up. That might be the quietest lesson in all of it. We cannot always give someone the recognition the world failed to give them, but we can be the one who reads the letters. If this story moved something in you, the channel has more of them lives examined not for their achievements, but for what they reveal about the rest of us.